None of the doctors could really pinpoint what the cause was. I didn't think it would ever hit me. It all started with a stomach cramp. I had a barbecue at home, and at 3 o'clock in the morning I had severe stomach ache. I had a reflux operation a few years before, which means that if I eat something, I can't just get sick. It has to work itself through the digestive system. I'd gotten to the ER, and the doctor decided, no, he's also going to do blood tests and send me for an X-ray. And they'd just done the bloods. I had gone off to the X-ray, and the next thing the doctor came in and said, stop everything, get me back to casualties now. ER's on its way, because they found cardiac fluids in my blood. En route, I had the first heart attack in the ambulance, and then continued through to Christian Barnard. And when I arrived there, I had the second heart attack at the ER. The fact that I ended up having heart failure is actually, to this day, a bit of a mystery, because none of the doctors could really pinpoint what the cause was. I was extremely fit. I was not overweight. I was very active. And for me, I always thought, that people that are overweight are the people that end up, and old people are the ones that get heart attacks and things. I didn't think it would ever hit me. I kept getting relapses more and more, and every time it just got worse and worse. Eventually I was admitted on a permanent basis, and it was literally 9 months that I was basically on constant medication. It was a long time. You basically saw people around you that were just as ill. And in the time period that I was there, about 12 people died around me. I just said to myself, I wonder if it's going to happen to me as well. When I was told that they had found a donor, that's when everything started falling into place.
So when you closed your eyes that day, did you feel like you're not going to make it?
I just kept saying to myself, I've gotten this far. This is now just the last step, and I'll get through it. And I forced myself to stay positive. Even though when you do research on the internet, there's a lot of stuff that scares you about transplants. But once I had spoken to the surgeons and even the theatre sisters, they really gave me the confidence that I will get through this very easily. Yes, I've gone through a transplant, and it's basically a gift that I received. And I don't see it as a physical organ as such. It's more the gift of life that I received. And so some days you think to yourself, I was almost dead. Why did it happen to me that I managed to get that heart? So an organ donor is actually a hero at the end of the day. So I do see my donor as a hero. And I would like to thank that family and tell them that what they did that day was a critical decision that saved my life. And I'm ever so grateful for that. After the transplant, the pain only started on, I would say, the third, fourth day. To move was very painful, but the more you moved, the better it became. It's not all sunshine and roses. It was very difficult in the beginning because, first of all, I had to walk properly again. When you start on your medication, there are so many side effects. You start crying unless you don't even know why you're crying. I have a lot of short-term memory loss. So I couldn't tell you what I had for dinner last night. I would really have to think, what did we eat last night? So that has definitely, and I would say one thing that has, since my transplant, has also affected me was my eyesight. My eyesight deteriorated horrendously, but that could be through the steroids and medication again. But other than that, I spent 2 Christmases and 2 New Years in the ICU, and 2018 will be the first year that I'm actually going to be home for Christmas. At this stage now, I'm doing regular circuits, and I originally started off very slow, basically testing the water and getting my balance and my breathing right again. I think that the most difficult part was the breathing again, because you'd been on oxygen all the time.
Tell me, Werner, today it looks as if you're not really coping. You're in disarray today, I would say.
You know, people always say to you, and my friends and family always say to me, oh, you look so good and you're doing so well and what have you. And I always say, yes, I feel good, and you know what? Sometimes I think to myself, yes, if you only knew what nightmare is actually going on in my life and how I have to cope with things that the normal person doesn't even know about.
Like what?
You know, you struggle every single day because you feel nauseous from the drugs. You struggle to pay the bills. I'm not working. I haven't worked for 3 years. I've been for several interviews to get an additional job, and I've been told, sorry, but you're a high risk because you have heart problems and you've had a heart transplant. We don't really, we don't want to take you on. So you deal with that type of discrimination as well. So how do you go forward? It's a new lease on life, but it is a huge struggle.
Yeah.
And
But
is it ever
adapt.
going to get better?
Yeah.
That is what one hopes.
Is dit belangrik om oorplantings te doen? Moet jy nie maar toelaat dat die pasiënt sy reis voltooi soos dit gebeur het nie, jy weet?
Nou, elke patiënt wat 'n oorplanting nodig het, is vir my 'n geleentheid om my talente te wys en is vir die donor 'n geleentheid om sy liefde te wys. Wil jy dit uit die wêreld verwyder? Dit is te mooi. Dat er 'n familie is wat uit liefde bereid is om met die dood van hulle kind of 'n volwasse om die hart beskikbaar te stel vir iemand anders om langer te lewe. Dis die grootste gift wat jy iemand kan gee. Nou, liefde is altyd pynlik. Dit is amper so as jy geen pyn het, dan was dit niet uit liefde, maar dan was het meer van een handelsovereenkomst. Ons deel alles zo lekker. Dit is makkelijk. En dat is mijn liefde. Maar als er liefde is, dan is er ook die pijn wat ermee samengaat. Van, mijn kindse hart zit nou in iemand anders. Hoe voel ik daarover? Hoe ga ik dit hanteren? Dat komt met een beetje pijn. Maar indien je vasthoudt aan, ik heb het uit liefde gedaan. En wat die persoon ook doen, met die hart wat hij van mijn kind ontvangen heeft, mag hij doen. Ik doe dit als een gift, zonder verwachting.
Dan 'n hartoorplanting jou menswees verander?
Een hartoorplanting verandert definitief jouw gevoelens, jouw wezen. Dit affecteert jou. Maar dit hoeft niet voor een lange tijd te wezen. Want zoals elke cel in je lichaam vervangen wordt door nieuwe cellen na een periode. En ik veronderstel na 7 jaar of zo is die hele hart amper vervangen met nieuwe cellen. Zo zal die nieuwe cellen meer jouw zelf wezen, meer jouw eigen genetica, meer jouw eigen gevoel geven. Dus alhoewel er een verandering in die begin is, met tijd voel jij dat je wordt weer meer jezelf. En dit uit zich ook in die immuunonderdrukking. Want je hebt immuunonderdrukking nodig om verwerping tegen te gaan. Met tijd heb je minder onderdrukking nodig. In die beginperiode is dat vooral een sterke behoefte van die lichaam om die nieuwe orgaan te verwerpen. En dit is ook mogelijk, niet net een genetische verwerping, mogelijk is dit ook een psychische verwerping.
I think the coordinators could do a lot more. There's no, for instance, after transplant, they hand you a booklet and literally there you go and everything's supposed to be fine, but you cannot believe how many things go wrong, how many side effects, how much stuff you have to Google, which all should have been part of the coordinators' constant follow-ups. Since my transplant, I haven't had any follow-ups with any of the coordinators. So I think they just pretty much say, well, you've got your heart now, off you go. Live with it and be grateful, which I am. But I just find that they could do a little bit more.
If you know what you know now, would you go for a heart transplant again?
Very difficult question. Would I go for a transplant again? I think if you really were in that position, you clutch onto life because you so desperately want to live. But it's been such a struggle that there's many times that I wonder, was this actually worth it?
Let's try this now. Let's try to fix this. I'm going to help you fixing this in a way. I don't know how, but I have to think about it. And then we'll take it from there, I just want you to be more positive.
I've been back to the hospital several times, met the nursing staff that basically daily cared for me. Those people are like unbelievable. You can be so grateful that there are people like that.
Susan, you were the surgeon. How do you feel about the transplant? Are you happy, Susan?
I think one should always realize that it's not the answer, it's not the perfect solution. It is changing one disease for another, but you change something that is imminently life-threatening to something that you can have good quality of life, but there is a price to pay. There is the medication you should take, the side effects of the medication, the emotions that you need to deal with. But those are all part of what we should address as we become aware of it. In cases like this, or people that feel down after major events, it's the equivalent of a post-traumatic stress disorder. If you had a heart attack, if you had the operation, if you had a transplant, that's a natural cycle, and there are ways of addressing it. I think where one can, one should address it specifically, take away stressful factors, do some medication if medication is indicated, and then evaluate again afterwards. What is also happening, but Werner can tell you, he's designed a very nice website which is all about transplantation, and what he wants to do with that is to focus on things that people don't normally focus on. For instance, we manage the medication and the follow-up and how you are physically, but there are a lot of other factors where people need definite support, whether it's financial, emotional, psychological, or whatever. That is very important. There is really nothing in this country that addresses those aspects, and we're also going to cooperate with him to get that off the ground.
Definitely there's a need for it. You know, you have your transplant, you take your medication, but there's a lot of other things that, as a transplant recipient, you go through that the surgeons don't feel, and unless you actually talk about it, that it actually comes out.
You made a decision today, which is a very important decision. You are going to compete in the World Transplant Games in 2 years' time.
I know for a fact that I will be taking part in the next games. I am fit already, and yeah, I'm looking forward to taking part.
We've already chatted about his qualifying times, and he's under the times already, so I think he could do well at Nationals next year. Transplant games, the meaning behind it for us, and the purpose for attending the transplant game, it's a lot deeper than going to the Olympic Games for us.
I see.
You know, it's a celebration of life for our donors, and the gathering Werner's got the most beautiful scar, and we all show off our scars.
Really? Do you show it off?
The gentleman
No,
that
where's
walk
your
around,
scar? Show me.
well, mine is a little hidden.
And where's yours?
That's Andre.
But that's not a big one.
Well, it goes quite deeper, but I think the other thing is as well, we're all on so much medication that it doesn't help us in the swimming. It actually, in some cases, it prevents us to push ourselves to the maximum that we can. Like the guys that goes to the Olympics itself. So we've got a little bit of a setback, which is medication.
Yeah.
And like our chairman, Herman Stein, he said, we're actually the one sport that if you're not on drugs, you're not allowed to compete. So
No, we actually fall, when we do our testing before we get selected and before we go overseas, swimming falls under high risk
Yeah.
for cardio.
Oh, really?
Yes, it falls under high risk. So, you know, every day is a challenge. We're not always up to training. Sometimes we feel sick during training.
How did you make peace with your circumstances?
I think you make peace with it in the fact that I'm extremely grateful for my donor, and I think my entire aspect of life and my look out in life has changed. I was extremely materialistic, always wanted the best cars, the best houses, the best of everything. But now those things don't matter to me. I find that my friends are worth a lot more than my assets. And you eventually look past all the money issues, and those don't matter, because I mean those are all materialistic things that carry no value, like a friendship and the support net of your friends and of course your family.